I wanted to set the record straight for what we were doing, who we were, what we were like in 1970 and 1971. And I wasn't truly trying to be specific to this operation, but it's in that first 6 months or so after it's published, I received about 6,000 letters. It came in basically two waves. The first wave was almost all from veterans. And over again, they said, that's the way we operated. Were you with my unit? Or they said things like, I've never been able to tell anybody what it was really like. I handed your book to my wife and said, here, read this. This is what it was like for me.
And like you said,
what we haven't heard is the stories of guys like me and others who were the majority of the people in Vietnam, because if you were a soldier in the field, you needed somebody to, cook your meals and make your uniform, write the stories about you, etc. And so we haven't heard about that experience. And sometimes it's not blood and guts, it's not combat, but it's a different kind of war or challenge or battle, if you will.
It was a fortnight into the operation. The company he was covering had been badly decimated, and many of the men who hadn't fallen from enemy fire had collapsed from heat stroke. Some so bad, they said the blood in their brains had stewed. They were crossing the Paddies, sweeping towards a Ville, where they planned to make camp and cordon off an LZ for a resupply drop. Hines had intended to hop a lift out. He had too many stories as it was, nobody back at Da Nang would question his leaving. Then somebody in the company tripped a bouncing Betty, and it took out 3 other Marines clustered around him.
I'm convinced I was born with the gene. From the earliest times, I heard the siren call, I heard the sound of trumpets. Of course, it was a very romantic vision in those days, sitting next to my dad in some sleazy bar in North St. Louis and listening to all of these World War II veterans tell me great stories about combat in the Pacific or combat in the European theater of operations. I heard that as music. I saw myself going across the black sands of Iwo Jima. I saw myself in those romantic terms. I found myself good at it. I found myself able to handle the stress. I found myself able to deal with this. I found myself emerging as sort of a leader, a stand-up guy, a guy that could handle it. Later on, including the Tet Offensive of 1968, I still came away without having lost that sense of romance, that sense of adventure. I believed, and still believe, that Ernest Hemingway was right when he wrote and said that war is man's greatest adventure. I think he's correct.